So, how's it going, everyone? So, I think everyone here. Yeah, I'm Peter. My online name is StudyMate. So on Discord or on the Numerai forums, that's what I go by. Been participating in the tournament since, same as Joe, 2020. So like COVID kind of brought me to the tournament and to Numerai. Also similar to Joe, I also went to school for engineering in a similar field, biomedical engineering, but kind of late into my university, just found more of like the data science aspects of my degree kind of interesting, and then COVID, and ended up here. So Aventurine and I think Suraj are taking the more like technical portions of the tournament, and we've gone through a bunch of like machine learning stuff. And it's a good thing that like a lot of you are pretty new to Numerai, because mine's going to be a bit more like community related. So I'm going to be presenting NumerWiki. So this is a solution that I made to hopefully try to onboard kind of new users, get them more familiar with our Numerai terms, because as you guys have kind of seen from the first presentation, there's a lot of general machine learning concepts that obviously are very useful in the tournament, but things like feature neutralization, feature exposure are good examples of, if you actually Google feature exposure and try to like see maybe in academia like where you would find that, if you Google that, like the first two results go to the Numerai forums. So yeah, just to show that like some of these technical terms are very like either different within the context of Numerai, like there's a lot of nuances that you need to consider when trying to apply it to the tournament, or with like feature exposure can be just like very Numerai specific terms. So I tried to come up with this glossary to, again, have like a place where you can just see a term and be like, what does that mean? Especially for Numerai. So where did this kind of come from? So I think Aventurine went through the Numerai website, and at the top there's obviously all the dashboards and stuff for your models, but this is a snapshot of the Numerai forums. So for all the newer people here, the forums are where you can really see just like a bunch of discussions on anything from the structure of the tournament to the Council of Elders, like what Joe and Aventurine are a part of, as well as anything like community related like this. So, you know, in the feedback section, I saw this post about Numerai Glossary, and yeah, I just thought that's actually a really cool idea. I'll kind of take a shot at making something to address this, because this is something that I also found hard when I joined the tournament. I just had like a Word doc at the time, but I eventually moved it to like OneNote of just like a bunch of random YouTube, there would be like links to like YouTube for like a talk, or like a forum link, or like a Stack Overflow link for like all my different notes and all my different resources around different things. And so I thought it'd be cool if we get like one, you know, centralized almost resource for anyone who might want to do this stuff. And yeah, so just to show as well, like if you post something on the forums, they get a good amount of viewership, and our community is pretty strong. There are a lot of kind of weirdos like me who might see that and be like, I'll do that. And so, you know, post and be active, because yeah, you might get someone who will kind of respond to your request. And so again, there's the forums that we just saw, where you can have like really long discussions from, again, one of the thousands of like very smart people who are a part of the community. And then also, Aventurine showed as well, there are actual Numerai docs, right? Like the official website documentation. So, you know, I guess my first thought was, you know, with all of this information out there, why do we need another source of information? And my main pro is, you know, sometimes when you're looking at all of these documentations, like and even the discussions on the forums, it's a lot to go through. Like it'll take you like hours of just reading, and especially with technical concepts, it really becomes confusing to be like, to read, especially on text-based forums, like back and forth conversations, and you're kind of just like following it and you're reading it, but to have like a summarized and aggregated like definition is really helpful, because you might read 20 pages of back and forth discussions and you're like, what did I do? Like, what's the takeaway here? Like, you're not really even confident in kind of like what you just read. So, you know, my idea is to kind of have this as like, we're gonna summarize for new users, just like high level concepts and what they mean in the Numerai space, but also if you want to go deep into these topics, you know, still have the links, still be able to do that. And then again, lastly, I talked about this a lot, but yeah, taking like general machine learning concepts, and then, you know, for example, if you're trying to do like a time series cross-validation, you know, obviously in traditional, where like every resource out there is going to talk about doing that with a date, right? Like a traditional short date or something in the data, or like a closing date if it's financial data, price data or something like that. But in the Numerai tournament, we don't have dates, we have arrows. And so like there's a little bit of nuance there into how you might need to convert that data to be able to actually use it. And so trying to facilitate that within the NumerWiki. And then the cons that obviously we're trying to like stay away from, duplication of information. You know, we want to stay relevant. I don't want to have to, again, just have another repository of information that is just regurgitating what's already out there. And then subjective topics. Like I said, there's some topics that are not so clear-cut that in the forums you might have good back and forth that I have in here, but you know, we have to be a bit delicate on what we end up kind of putting in there. So yeah, I have the link here on my kind of first try at this. So this is, I built this on Notion, so it's just a Notion board with the different topics, and I've kind of taken a first shot again at the different categories, so I'll walk through it now. This is the link that'll be in the slides that I guess go out. I'm gonna try to get like a custom URL and pretty it up a little, but for now this is just what I have. But essentially, yeah, so this is what we have. So essentially we're gonna, I've populated a couple examples here, but I'm gonna, over the next couple weeks, couple months, I'm going to post this in the forums, and obviously this will be open for anyone to contribute to edit. I'm obviously gonna be filling in, you know, everything that I think is relevant, but so, you know, if we look at feature exposure, so this is a pretty key metric that eventually covered. You know, the general layout that I want to have for that I thought might be good for the wiki is, so from forum post, some forum posts that I've seen, you know, just a definition. So again, from here, you know, what is feature exposure? It's, you know, the measure of how well balanced your model is to the features that you trained it on, and obviously, the lower your feature exposure, generally, obviously there's strategy there, but the lower your feature exposure, generally, the more consistent your model. As Eventuring said earlier in his presentation, if you're really banking on like one single feature because you think that it's very predictive, over time, if that feature changes and becomes less predictive, if your model still thinks like this is my winning ticket and it's wrong, then over time your model is not going to be really good because it's kind of all in on like a single feature that it thinks is predictive. And again, you know, so a little bit of a definition, and then I want to include things like code snippets. So again, here, this is taken from a forum post by JRB, so I want to give credit to him for you know, initially kind of coming up with this, but want to kind of take out the most valuable pieces of his forum post and another forum post by Bobby Fish, and then kind of summarize it here. So you'll get, you know, the definition, a code snippet that you can just copy paste into your own notebooks, into your own models, and then at the bottom here, you know, some additional helpful links throughout, and then the citations to the actual, again, forum posts that I used to create the summarized wiki, along with any other resources. So this YouTube video here This is an older one from a couple years ago, still relevant though, talking about feature exposure with arbitrage, and I think Michael Oliver as well. So again, if you want to deep dive from here, everything that you need to kind of go and run down the rabbit hole. But if you just want like a quick and dirty, what is this thing? Here's the code to do it. That's what I would like to include in hopefully like the many wiki posts that we end up making, again, for new users, existing users, and whoever might try to use this resource. Yeah. So jumping back. So yeah, that's what kind of where we're at now. I've just got like the MVP, but again, going to be building it out. So just to talk about governments and kind of where I hope to take this. So yeah, first thing, as I mentioned, development of the topics. So I want to fill in that gap between anything that isn't on the Numerai official documentation, but has maybe multiple posts on the forums, and you know, fill in that gap for those topics. And then I'm going to be putting out a forum post on the forums. Again, looking for community input on the content. I don't think I have all the right answers, and I also don't want to just like steal people's high quality forum posts. I want to make sure that like the final post is you know, everyone's happy with it, and we're making sure that everything's like factually correct. And then intake requests as well. So if anyone has a a term or something that they think should be on there that isn't already, if you have an account on the forum site, you know, feel free to comment and request that. And then lastly, feedback. So I put it on Notion, but there's plenty of other kind of other platforms, and I've seen stuff like Obsidian that is really good for like note taking, or I think you can actually make like the wiki sites, like on like Fandom and like all those custom wiki sites. I've never done that, but again, whatever the community thinks is like the right approach, I'm open to discussing that on the forum post that I'm gonna post probably sometime later not this week, but next week. And then hopefully get like a domain name, because right now it's just the default Notion one, and it's like a little ugly. So I'll try to pretty it up a little bit, but yeah, so if you're a new user, this hopefully will be something to help you onboard into Numerai, and then eventually contribute if it's something that you feel like giving back on. Yeah, so more to come once we kind of formalize this, but this is something I'm going to be working on for the next little bit. And yeah, that's it for me. And I hope